In the 2000s and 2010s, DatPiff came out as one of the most influential platforms in all of rap. If you're a fan, you remember the days of scouring the site to discover new artists and check out new drops. Despite this history, by the mid-2010s, DatPiff's influence absolutely tanked. It went from the center of music discovery to a barely functional archive site for old mixtapes. Its YouTube page hasn't posted in almost a year, and its IG is barely active, just posting random rap news every couple weeks, if that. So how could this have happened to a platform that at one point was the center of the culture? To find that out, today we're doing a deep dive on the rise and fall of DatPiff. How did the platform first get started? What made it rise to prominence? And what caused fans worldwide to jump ship on it? My name is Pancho, the host of Rap Lore, and we're gonna dive into it right now.
DatPiff.com, the mixtape authority.
We're gonna take it from the very beginning of the story. What was DatPiff and why was it created? DatPiff was launched in 2005 as a mixtape platform designed to help artists get their music out to the world. Before DatPiff, getting your music heard was a huge struggle. You only had a few viable ways to do it. You could connect with DJs and have them spin your track, which meant chasing down DJs, building relationships however you could, and passing on your music. You could make physical copies of your project and hand them out, whether CDs or cassette tapes. You'd burn them and hand them out all over town. Maybe you could sell them for a couple bucks, but for the most part, rappers were giving them out for free. Next, you could do the show hustle, perform at local bars, clubs, small venues, and wherever else they'd let you take the mic. And lastly, you could tap in with local radio stations. Anywhere from college radio to big stations like Hot 97, radio could do a lot to move an artist forward. Now, all of these could work theoretically, but they all had major issues. Radio was heavily gatekept at the time. If you didn't know anyone in the game or had someone vouching for you, you weren't getting on. Simple as that. DJs were very picky about who they supported, and even if you got your music to them, they controlled how it was played, and often it wouldn't be in the way that you wanted. Printing physical copies was inefficient and expensive, often creating huge losses for artists that they couldn't afford. And shows could be cool, but unless you were touring and doing big venues, it really wouldn't do much for you. That local 150 cap venue wouldn't really move the needle for a rapper. There was one other wildcard option, LimeWire, the infamous peer-to-peer file sharing site. People definitely use this to share and spread music, but the reality is it was unreliable, chaotic, and extremely illegal. So illegal that in 2010, the federal government swooped down and got them out of here. All that to say, the avenues artists had to get themselves out there weren't the greatest. Two men from Philly, Marcus Fraser and Kyle KP Relly, recognized this pain rappers faced and built what they believed was the solution: DatPiff. DatPiff was made to bypass all the headaches of promoting music. All an artist had to do was sign up, upload a project, pick the genre, release date, cover art, add features, and send it off. The whole process could take as little as 15 minutes. This was game-changing for rappers. A process that used to take relentless hustle, money, and luck could now be done free of charge during a UPS shift lunch break. After the projects were uploaded, artists would take their links and post them all over their socials, Twitters, forums, blogs, and even MySpace while it was still a thing. The goal was to get as many downloads and listens as possible so the platform would push their project out further. DatPiff also had a ranking system within its platform. If a record was popular, it could get marked with one of three labels: hot if it was trending, featured if DatPiff's staff manually picked it out, and certified after it hit milestones like 1 million downloads. Having a hot or featured project on DatPiff could be life-changing for an artist. It wouldn't give them money because everything on the platform was free, but the promotion could take an artist from the underground to the limelight overnight. Artists big and small recognized DatPiff's potential and started shifting their focus to building a buzz on the platform.
This watch right here cost 90,000 plain Jane.
The biggest artists that made noise in the early DatPiff era mostly came from Atlanta's Trap Trinity: Gucci Mane, T.I., and Jeezy. Gucci was a standout among them in the mixtape scene, especially in the late 2000s. In 2009 alone, he dropped Riding on the Wall, Bird Money, The Movie Part 2, and The Bird Print. Fabolous is another artist from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn who made noise during this era. He launched his There Is No Competition series in the late 2000s that to this day a lot of fans say is better than his studio albums. However, none of these rappers were as big in the 2000s mixtape scene as Lil Wayne. Wayne's mixtape run in the 2000s was surreal. You had the Dedication series 1 through 3, the W. Carter collection, the Drought 3, and No Ceilings. That also doesn't include the full-length albums he put out in this time like the Carter 2 and 3, Like Father Like Son, the Rockstar album Rebirth, and I Am Not a Human Being. I don't think people realize how crazy Wayne's work ethic was during this time. That is an insane resume to have in just a few years. Anyways, it wasn't just the artists that popped off in the early DatPiff era. DJs who hosted the mixtapes also built big names by attaching themselves to these projects. You had DJ Holiday, DJ Scream, Smalls, Who Kid, Green Lantern, and White Owl all making huge names for themselves hosting these projects. But the undisputed king of DatPiff DJs was DJ Drama. Drama launched his Gangsta Grill series in the mid-2000s and hosted some of the most iconic mixtapes ever in rap history. Wayne's whole dedication series 1 through 6, Jeezy's Trap or Die, Gucci's The Movie and Mr. Zone 6, Fab's There Is No Competition series, and later on Meek Mill's Dream Chaser series. That is a crazy resume. With Drama as number 1, I'd probably rank White Owl as number 2. Instead of partnering with artists one-on-one, he launched his Drop That series stacked with freestyles from the hottest artists at the time. He put out new tapes every single week for years, from about 2006 to 2010. At the end of his run, he put out over 250 Drop That tapes, an output that I don't think we've ever seen from another DJ or rapper ever. He probably would have kept going, but sadly he battled with hypoleukemia, an aggressive form of cancer, and passed away in 2016. Without that illness, he realistically could have put out 1,000 tapes in his life. White Owl's hustle, along with other DJs and artists I mentioned above, laid the framework for DatPiff to explode. Sadly, there's no published records to see how many users it had, but culturally, it was on top of the world. I know from my experience, I was checking on DatPiff for new releases way before I would go to iTunes or a record store. But it wasn't all smooth sailing for DatPiff. They had fierce competition in the mixtape market. The biggest competitor for years was Live Mixtapes, a very similar platform that launched in 2006. Live Mixtapes focused heavily on southern hip-hop and often had exclusive drops from Atlanta rappers. Despite Live Mixtapes having the South on lock, DatPiff stayed number 1 globally and kept winning going into the 2010s. This decade kicked off a new wave of artists coming through and taking over the mixtape game. The biggest ones were Wiz Khalifa with Cushion Orange Juice, the Cabin Fever series, Taylor Allardyce, and 28 Grams, Mac Miller with Kids, Best Day Ever, Macadelic, and Faces, Meek Mill with his legendary Dream Chaser series, one of my favorite mixtape series ever, Chance the Rapper with 10 Day and Acid Rap, Future with, oh my god, so many tapes, Dirty Sprite, True Story, Streets Calling, Free Bricks, Monster, Beast Mode, and 56 Nights. That's still only like 25% of his catalog, maybe even less. And lastly, Chief Keef with Bang Part 1 and 2, Back from the Dead Part 1 and 2, and Almighty So. These artists all dropping mixtapes around the same time created the golden age for DatPiff. From the early to mid 2010s, DatPiff became the number 1 place to discover new artists, new sounds, and projects. DatPiff had the game fully on lock. However, by the mid 2010s, several things started happening at once that all threatened DatPiff's spot at the top.
And we are calling it iPhone.
First, fans' consumption habits started changing in a big way, sparked by the smartphone boom. Despite the fact the first iPhone came out in 2007, it took a few years before the world really adopted them. That really took place around 2013 to 2014. Let me know the first iPhone you had in the comments. I was late to the party. My first was the 5S in like 2015 or 2016. With everyone now using iPhones, people wanted to discover and listen to tracks right on their phones instead of downloading all these files from their computer. DatPiff responded to the shift by launching their mobile app around 2012, but it was honestly kind of It was clunky, unreliable, and looked extremely dated. Fans dealt with it for the time being until a new kid on the block popped up, Spinrilla. Spinrilla launched in 2013 and took the same approach DatPiff did, but designed their whole platform for mobile use instead of desktops. It was the first platform created specifically for phones, and it was a big hit with younger listeners. This created the first mass jump ship from DatPiff. By 2015 to 2016, the two platforms were basically neck and neck with users, fighting hard for the market share. Me personally, I jumped ship and I only went back to DatPiff if I couldn't find a tape on Spinrilla first. It was just so much better and smoother to use Spinrilla. This was the first big threat to DatPiff, but not nearly as extreme as the other ones. The next big threat for the platform was the explosion of the streaming model. Everyone knows what streaming is today. Between music and video, you probably have a good 3 to 5 or more streaming apps apps on your phone. But people don't know streaming has been around for a while. It was first conceptualized in 1993 by a company called RealWorks. They put out a platform called Real Audio, which was the world's first ever streaming service. It was slow and clunky, but it worked. Apple's iTunes Store was the next iteration of streaming. Released in 2003, iTunes let you preview songs on the store, and if you liked the track, you could purchase it for a small fee. This was followed up by Pandora, YouTube, and then more modern streaming platforms like Spotify in 2008. When iPhones began blowing up and the internet became faster, streaming became a viable way for people to listen to music on the go. It was also the cheapest way. Fans paid a monthly subscription and had access to the platform's entire library of songs. This was much cheaper than buying CDs or individual records on iTunes, so fans adopted it quickly. Now, this is great for listeners, but a nightmare for platforms like DatPiff. Streaming made music so accessible and so easy that fans didn't have much of a reason to go to DatPiff. Even if a project was a DatPiff exclusive, fans began seeing it as too much work to leave Spotify or Apple Music to go to the platform. Then on top of that, artists and labels were getting paid for streams. Although it wasn't much, like 0.004 cents per Spotify stream in the States, it was better than nothing at all. Since fans preferred the ease of use and artists would make more money dropping on DSPs, it undermined the whole reason why DatPiff existed. You didn't need mixtapes to build a buzz anymore. You could do the same thing on a quote-unquote better platform and get paid in the process. Sometimes certain songs that couldn't be cleared by labels or just leaks would pop up on DatPiff, which gave people some purpose for the site. But then they'd show up on SoundCloud, the new free streaming platform that fans preferred for its better interface and ability to comment and repost songs. All these factors, plus the fact that DatPiff's mobile app was still respectfully ass, pushed the site out of relevance. By 2017, people saw no point on going to the platform and its traffic sharply declined.
They didn't really have the technical ability to even maintain what we were already doing.
For the next few years, fans watched the platform they loved and admired crumble apart. The traffic kept dipping, which meant less ads shown to fans and less income month by month. With the money slowed up and probably a deflated spirit in the business, the company just gave up. They stopped maintaining the site, making it buggy, outdated, and unreliable. And in 2019, things got really bad for them. With their backs against the wall, DatPiff made the decision to sell themselves to a private tech company called Media Lab. If you don't know what Media Lab is, because I definitely didn't before researching this video, this is basically what they do. They buy legacy internet platforms that have fallen from their peaks but still have somewhat of an active user base. They then strip down operations to have it running as lean as possible and then fill the whole thing head to toe with ads. This keeps the cost tiny while milking the platform for every dollar possible. They ran the same play with Kick, Whisper, Genius, Imgur, and now DatPiff. A brand selling to Media Lab is basically them waving the white flag. When the business becomes too up to run, Media Lab swoops in to exploit it. This really put the nail in the coffin for DatPiff. Media Lab laid off the entire growth team and moved all their energy towards preserving the site history. The platform became so neglected that in March of 2023, the whole site went down for a month and a half. Fans everywhere thought it was the end. DatPiff came out and said tech problems caused the shutdown, but the reality was very, very different. What really happened is they teamed up with a site called Internet Archive to save and protect their catalog for years to come. The goal was to get its 300,000 plus mixtapes off of the platform and host it another place. That way they wouldn't have to pay crazy storage and bandwidth fees for the site, cutting costs even further. When this was done in late 2023, Media Lab officially let the site die. If you visit it today, you're met with this corporate message front and center. Embrace the next generation of DatPiff. We're evolving beyond our website and app to take DatPiff to the next generation. While we're working away on the next iteration of DatPiff, we've partnered with archive.org to continue to make the library accessible. We'll have more to share soon, but in the meantime, make sure to follow us on YouTube and Instagram to stay on top of new mixtape releases. Click the button below to be redirected to archive.org, and if you have any questions, please reach out here. Given the fact that this message has been there for over 2 years and the socials are completely dead, I don't know how much I really believe it. Regardless, it's there. That's what DatPiff has been reduced to. The craziest part about this is that DatPiff's ending was actually a lot less dramatic than some of its competitors. Some of them jumped ship and survived. Live Mixtapes and My Mixtapes both pivoted from downloads to streaming, and Live Mixtapes was even able to keep up its old catalog of classic records. They weathered the storm and made it through the other side. Spinrilla, on the other hand, is a whole different story. The federal government came down on them hard. Once streaming picked up, it became a huge part of record labels' business model. Because of that, they saw mixtape platforms as competition that hurt their bottom line. In order to take the competition off the board, Sony, UMG, and Warner all partnered up and sued the shit out of Spinrilla. They actually sued all mixtape platforms, but the Spinrilla case had the most drastic result. The basis of the lawsuit was Spinrilla allowing copyrighted songs on their website. Now, this was technically true because artists were rapping over unclear songs and samples and putting them out as mixtapes. That was the whole point of the mixtape, and Spinrilla just happened to be the place that they were hosted. The lawsuit was filed in 2017, and the courts ruled against Spinrilla in 2020. In 2023, it was calculated that Spinrilla owed $50 million in damages for having over 4,000 copyrighted pieces of music on their site. On top of the judgment, they were forced to shut down their site, and the CEO, Jeffrey Copeland, was permanently banned from running another business like it again. That is a bad day. Despite the sad end for DatPiff and the mixtape era in general, the platform is still legendary in the culture. It leveled the playing field for rappers to get in the game, and it was the vehicle that helped tons of our favorite rappers blow up. Without DatPiff, it's possible that we would never know Wiz Khalifa, Meek Mill, J. Cole, or Nipsey Hussle. There would have been no realistic way for our favorite artists to get on. It also low-key laid the framework for DSPs to take over. DatPiff is the big brother of streaming, and without it, we might never have Spotify, Apple Music, or anything like it. It's sad that it's gone, but I'm grateful to have used it in the past and made a lot of great memories with it. With that said, that's the full rise and fall of the iconic mixtape platform, DatPiff. Were you a DatPiff person, a live mixtape person, or a Spinrilla person? Let me know in the comments, and if you want to watch another video on rises and falls, I have a full video on the rise and fall of Soulja Boy here on the channel. Check it out.